Folks, today I have something truly special for you. Fellow movie critic Cody Leach has invited me to take part in his movie ranking extravaganza. Here's how it works if you're unfamiliar. Cody, myself, and a few others take the time to watch 31 movies for May. We then put together our own unique rankings for said films. Our videos all go up the same day, back to back to back to back, so you can just jump from one to the next. And then, down the road, we meet back up on a live stream to go over the results and have healthy debate, I assume. And these movies I'm ranking today all follow a theme. And that theme is law and disorder. These movies feature drugs, sex, murder, and money. Well, four of my favorite things. And I believe due to the excessive runtime for most of them, this was over 100 hours of movie watching for myself. And I did rewatch or watch for the first time every single movie on this list, and I am ready. But before I begin, two things to note. Number one, my choices are perfect, and I cannot be shaken. You are free to tell me I'm wrong and provide your own list in the comments, but it's a foolish endeavor, for I and I alone am the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Number two, let's have some fun. I've given you all the players, you know what's at stake. It's time to start the ranking, but if you find yourself enjoying this video as it's going, if you wouldn't mind taking a baseball bat and hitting the living shit out of the subscribe and the notification bell, that way future videos by me show up in your feed. It takes no more than a second to do, it's free of charge, hit it and forget about it. Alright, it's time to begin, keeping in mind, once more, this ranking is perfection, there's no reason for any pushback. Alright, King Kong ain't got shit on this list. Let's begin. There are few films on this list that I outright don't like. Once Upon a Time in America is one such film. Not only is this movie long as shit, it just meanders so much. And this story hops around more than Roger Rabbit on crack. It's just unnecessarily confusing at times. The pushback, I suppose, would be, well, it's kind of supposed to be a surreal, almost trippy, out-of-body experience because it's told through the lens of Robert De Niro's character in an opium den as he's trying to recollect his history in America. De Niro's character Noodles and his best friend Max, played by James Woods, are going to be the focus of the film. We take part in their budding friendship. We watch in awe as they run a train on a prostitute up on the rooftop while they're blackmailing a cop. We cringe in amazement as they rob a jewelry store where Noodles finds the perfect opportunity to sexually assault a worker. I mean, this chick was kind of a freak. Maybe that one wasn't so much an assault, but we damn sure know later was. When he takes advantage of a childhood sweetheart in the back of a car. Classy as always. This is just truly an awkward movie to watch. It's an uncomfortable movie, but not in like a good uncomfortable way. It's just a very unlikable, ugly movie to sit through. I don't like any of these characters. Pesci shows up randomly for like 10 minutes and then he's gone. Typically, Pesci can kind of save a movie or elevate it. Not this time. Not this time. This film came out in 1984. It is almost 4 hours long. But then I found out afterwards online that there is a separate version that's half the length. I heard it's half as good too. But I mean, honestly, I probably should have sat through that one because it would have been over faster. Let's move on. Okay, boppers, I know this one's gonna piss some people off. Again, it's the perfect list. There's no debating, so don't even bother. The Warriors is perhaps the cringiest shit I've ever seen in my life. I watched it when I was a youngling, okay? I don't remember much of it. Clearly, it didn't leave quite the impact it did on other people my age. I've heard from some that this is a fantastic movie. I know Cody loves it. He wants it high up on the list. He's going to be upset with me because I watched this film front to back. I do not understand the hype in the slightest outside of nostalgia. There's some cheesy dialogue. The action is piss poor bad, even for when it came out. The characters are all ridiculous looking. It takes place in a futuristic setting of New York where all these different rival factions have taken over the city. And they certainly have, because there's like 3 regular people walking around. Everyone else is dressed up like a reject from a Mario Brothers video game or some dumbass clowns. What is happening? The film almost had me for 10 full minutes. I thought this was kind of leading, so I can forgive the kind of cheesy effects and the awful action and some of the poor acting had the narrative been interesting. But oh my God, is it not? We had a moment early on where all these rival gangs come together, where Cyrus is gonna give a riveting speech. A speech that my buddy swears Morpheus ripped off in Matrix Reloaded. After hearing the speech, I kind of agree. Can you dig it? The people of Zion! Anyway, after a kumbaya speech where they can all pillage and plunder together as a family, he's murdered, assassinated, and it is pinned on the warriors. The rest of the film is a chase scene, where we will feature a series of vignettes where our warriors have to fight their way out of trouble. I say the story almost had me because the early stuff was interesting. Okay, someone killed this guy, he pinned it on the warriors. Why? What was the purpose? What did he used to be one? Was he jealous he could not be one? Did the rival gang steal his girl? What's going on here? Well, it turns out nothing is going on, because in the final moments of the film, the assassin, Luther, I believe his name is, admits that he just did it for the lulz. He did it for the memes. Good. This movie's shit. I found out, again, after the fact that there are 2 cuts of this, at least. The one I watched featured comic book transitions and a DJ every once in a while coming on the radio going, "Okay, boppers, the Warriors are in trouble. How are they gonna get out of this one?" I did think about John Wick, chapter 2 or 3, one of them, where they did something kind of similar as he's running away. So I'm not going to discredit the movie outright as not having any inspiration to other films. I appreciate that it tried to do something different. It did nothing for me in the slightest, and I kind of find it insulting that it's on this list with all these other really great films. It would be akin to doing a ranking on some of the best horror movies of all time. Like you got The Shining on there, you got The Thing on there, you got Halloween, and then putting Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. You know, one of these is not like the other, and that's The Warriors. Number 29. I'm gonna make you an offer you can refuse, and that's watching The Godfather Part III. This movie came out in 1990. It's 2 hours and 42 minutes, far too long for the story it's telling, and it is a shell of its former self. Those first 2 Godfather movies, presented pretty back to back, only a couple years separated, feel like a seamless story. We jump forward so far in time that the characters are unrecognizable, some of them don't return, and the ones that do are completely changed. Francis Ford Coppola once again returns to direct, and he brought a little present with him this time. His daughter. While the central focus is going to be once again on Michael Corleone and the mistakes he made and the regrets he has from the past, we're going to spend a good chunk of time with his daughter Mary. Mary's in a relationship with her cousin, and they're going to take this thing all the way. Awkward. Now, this was already a puzzling plot to begin with. Making matters worse, Sofia Coppola cannot act her way out of a paper bag. She's a great director, not so much in the acting department. It was nice seeing Diane Keaton back. It was nice seeing Talia Shire return. But where the hell's Robert Duvall? MIA. Contract disputes, something. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't care. He's not in it. And quite frankly, I'm happy for him that he didn't have to end on such a piss-poor note. The big new player this time around is Andy Garcia. He's the hothead up-and-comer that wants to take over the family business. And Michael Corleone seems perfectly fine to just give it to him. He's so completely checked out at this point, making deals with the Vatican, giving away his large sums of cash to peddle influence and make amends for his past. I don't have an issue with the redemption arc, but this is kind of like Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. We haven't seen him for quite some time, and when he shows back up, that's not the guy I remember. There's no transition from point A to point Z. And so it feels like you're watching a completely different character in a movie that feels disconnected with the others because the time period's completely different and the rules of the game have changed. While there are a few shining moments, such as the helicopter attack and of course the iconic line, "Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in," that's not near enough to make up for such a boring slog of a film. I know I'm batting 1,000 so far. Let's continue. Number 28. What happens when you make an interesting, successful first film but don't have any more story to tell? Sicario 2 is what happens. Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin return, playing their characters from the first film, but missing is Emily Blunt. And I'm gonna be Emily Blunt with you. She was desperately needed for this film. The fish out of water character in the first movie had some heart. She cared. She had no idea things were so corrupt. By removing that lens to look through, all we're left with are some miserable, sad sack pieces of shit. Now, Josh Brolin still doing his thing, still having fun, but the mission is far less interesting. It starts out with some energy. There's some explosions, there's some mystery, there's some framing of characters, but then by the second half, it just turns into a boring kidnapping story, and I'm kinda checked out now. Making things more confusing is Del Toro's character, Alejandro, has really nothing to do, so the story just invents another bad guy for him to go after. Remember in the first film when he got his revenge, killed the boss, his kids, and his wife? Apparently there was a bigger boss. There's always a bigger fish, and he needed to go after him now. The only part I was really into was the ending when he gets freaking shot in the face and survives out in the freaking desert, and he has to find a way to get back to life. That kind of energized things for a good 10 minutes, so it did end on a somewhat interesting note. Outside of that, though, this was just a stinker. A watchable, uninspired mess of a film. Number 27. I remember watching Copland when it was on cable TV, and I thought to myself, that was okay. And then just last week, I rewatched Copland, and I thought to myself, that's okay. My opinion has not changed since 1997. I don't know if that's something I should brag about or not. What surprised me the most about this film is it was directed by James Mangold. Yeah, the same guy that did Logan. The same guy that did Ford v Ferrari. The same guy that did Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Oh, okay. Now I can see how he can screw up sometimes. Sylvester Stallone was big time when this movie came out, doing a whole string of action films, and I guess he kind of wanted to get into something a little bit more professional, a little bit more profound, something that would get him back in the good graces of the Academy. So he hit up the pancake houses, packed on about 50 pounds of fat, and he was ready to transform himself into boring-ass cop Freddy. Even though Freddy is a stick-in-the-mud character and Stallone is not doing anything to make this more interesting, I did find the storyline of him being a hometown hero, saving a girl back in high school, and then just kind of sitting with that, running on fumes for the rest of his life, to be an interesting take. And to be used and abused by all these crooked cops from the city who came into this bumfuck town, planted their flag, built their homes, and he's none the wiser about all the shady dealings, or he's just kind of willfully ignorant, that's good stuff. You got Ray Liotta in this, you have Harvey Keitel, Michael Rappaport, Janine Garofalo just randomly shows up as a cop for a little bit. We got the T-1000, Robert Patrick, and then a criminally underutilized Robert De Niro. Now, much like the city of New York, Robert De Niro is also going to be in about 80% of the movies I'm talking about. Copland's not a bad movie, and thankfully it is on the shorter side at only an hour and 45. I mean, that's like a cakewalk compared to some of these almost 4-hour tours. So even though this movie doesn't have any wild action scenes or anything that we haven't seen a million times over, it at least understands that it shouldn't overstay its welcome, and it is fun to see this cast work together. Number 26. Here we are at A Bronx Tale, not only starring Robert De Niro, he also directed it. This one is probably the biggest bummer on the list because I thought it started with such potential, but by the second half, it just kind of went nowhere that interesting. What we're dealing with is a young man named C. His real name is Caligero or Caligero. I don't know. It's a bizarre name, but that's okay. It's in the family. That's fine. His father, Lorenzo, played by Robert De Niro, is your typical man on the streets, salt of the earth, blue-collar bus driver. He doesn't want to get into any of the ugly business going on across the street. Specifically, this stuff involving Sonny and his crew. C, however, he's into it. and he's gonna sneak out whenever possible just to get a taste of what's going on over there. This is naturally gonna lead to Lorenzo and Sonny butting heads. Okay, alright, I like where this is at. This is gonna take place over the course of C's life, from a child growing into an adult, and along the way, this rivalry between Lorenzo and Sonny is gonna percolate into eventually it boils over into a somewhat fiery conversation and nothing more. I was just so disappointed by the lack of anything with De Niro's character. It's really all about C here, and the push, pull, tug, and war between these two men in his life that he respects both equally. Of course, you can't have a good mob movie without a Joe Pesci cameo. He's gonna come in late in the game, but it's always nice to see Pesci. Again, kind of a bummer. The performances are all great. I like the little kid version and the adult version of C. It looks good. De Niro does a good job directing this. Unfortunately, the story doesn't provide much excitement. Number 25. Last night, I fired up Apple Plus and watched the new streaming exclusive there, directed by Guy Ritchie. It was called Fountain of Youth, and it was kind of crap. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, how the hell is this directed by Guy Ritchie? The guy that gave us The Gentleman, Snatch, 2 kick-ass Sherlock Holmes films, and the one I'm talking about today, Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels. The reason I was puzzled was because it didn't have any style to it. Guy Ritchie has a very unique style to his films, one that very much gels with me. Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels is another film that I'm just seeing for the first time. I watched Snatch long ago when it came out, and I had a bunch of buddies tell me, yeah, Lock, Stock is kind of a crappier version of Snatch, so you don't really have to watch it. And to them I say, you know what, you were kind of right. You were kind of dead on, and I didn't really need to watch it, but I did enjoy the film. It did have that same flow as Snatch. It's following all these different groups. They all eventually smash heads together in a glorious mess of a finale. You get the punchy music, you get the fun editing. What I did not like about this, though, was the color grading. That rusty looking piss orange did not play well with my eyes. Not a fan how they colored this thing. Everything else, though, a fun time, plenty of action, plenty of good one-liners, and it's another fun caper where a group of guys get swindled out of a bunch of cash and they only have a few days to repay the man. Shenanigans, of course, will ensue afterwards. So while it does have at least 3 actors from Snatch, Vinnie Jones, Jason Statham, Alan Ford, their characters are not near as exciting, and the movie overall, while fun and entertaining and definitely can be watched no problem, it doesn't hold a candle to what comes after. Number 24. A History of Violence. This movie is directed by Cronenberg. It's R-rated, and I think it's the shortest film on this whole list. At only 1 hour and 36 minutes long, according to IMDb. It's basically 90 minutes. And the final factoid for you, I call them Adam Fun Facts here, it is the only movie on this list that I found myself enjoying more the second time. In fact, the first time I watched this film, I did not care for it at all. I found the dialogue to be awkward. I found the silences to be long and uncomfortable, perhaps a little too close to reality. I found the sex scenes to be borderline comical. And that's because I wasn't really viewing this film through the eyes of an adult married man. That does not take away from the fact that I do still find a lot of the dialogue to be awkward and some of the stuff to be incredibly silly. Here's an example. So Ed Harris is a mobster. He shows up at this small town where Viggo Mortensen's character, Tom Stahl, is, I guess, hiding out, because we're going to find out later that he's actually a totally different person. He's reinvented himself over the years. He met a woman, has a family, and he runs a quaint local diner. Anyway, Harris and his esteemed colleague show up at this place. Shit goes south, and Tom Stahl at one point grabs a coffee or he throws something, and the sound effect they use is just ridiculous. It's like, all the sound effects are silly and cartoonish. It's one of the decisions in this movie that just make me go, what? Why? Who the fuck did this? Why did they think this was an acceptable sound effect? It's the little things that can irk me sometimes. Now, even though this movie is on the shorter side of this list, it kind of trudges through mud at times to get going anywhere. But by the time you do, you're kind of invested in the character, and yeah, overall, this was fine. This was a pleasant surprise a second time watching, much better than the first. And I did enjoy Ed Harris as a villain, but not as much as I enjoyed Maria Bello in that cheerleader outfit. I'm a simple man. I have simple needs. Let's press on. Number 23. I think everybody on this planet knows what Scarface is. A lot less people know what Carlito's Way is, and I think there's a reason for that. It's not near as good, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I actually quite enjoyed Carlito's Way. It's obviously lower on my ranking, but that's good news. That means everything from this point forward is at least a decent watch. And there are a lot of movies on this list that are absolute bangers. Some of the best films, just full stop, but we'll get to them. Right now, Carlito's Way, I had never seen this one before. It was a first time watch for me. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't know the plot, and it kind of starts the same. Pacino's character Carlito just getting out of prison, spent some time in the clink, and he's ready to become a new man like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Unfortunately, New York City has other plans. And yes, like 80% of the movies on this list take place in New York. I mean, if you're a mob movie, you pretty much have to. Forget about it. Carlito owes his freedom to his attorney, Kleinfeld. I mean, I had to do it. Kleinfeld's played by Sean Penn, and while he at first seems like he's on the up and up, it turns out this guy's kind of a piece of shit, and he owes some really bad people a lot of money, which eventually will make its way back to Carlito getting pulled back in. Now, while Pacino's performance here is certainly different than that of a Scarface or a Donnie Brasco, it's not my favorite Pacino. In fact, I prefer Dunkachino to this soft-speaking Carlito. And the thing that really pushes this movie down the list for me is his relationship with Gail. I don't care about his dancing girlfriend. I didn't find their love story to be compelling. I found it to be boring. And frankly, I wanted to fast forward every time they were together talking. I think the biggest highlight for me in this film was seeing Viggo Mortensen show up. I had no idea he was in this movie. Just a fun surprise. Oh, and also John Leguizamo as Benny Blanco, a cool up-and-coming mobster who will eventually get the best of Carlito when this thing winds down. It's always the guys you least expect. Those are the ones you have to watch out for. All right, let's continue. There's a lot of movies to cover still. Number 22. Menace II Society kind of has a play with its title because it's going to be following two different individuals, Kane and O-Dog. They're like brothers. Kane, the more sensible one, O-Dog, the wild card, who we're going to find out very early on, makes some pretty piss-poor choices, as he kills a couple people in a liquor store because he didn't like how they spoke to him. Now, obviously, a movie like Menace II Society is going to hit a lot different for someone who did grow up in such an environment. For me, as a self-identifying black girl from Harlem, I really related to this one. No, okay, joking aside, I grew up in the suburbs. I had a very cushy, easy life. But that doesn't mean I can't watch a movie like this that is incredibly hard-hitting and have some empathy. And understand that not every child's upbringing is going to be as easygoing as mine. Tyrone Turner and Lorenz Tate do a great job as these characters. They're believable. They bring the emotion. You also have a performance by Jada. Keep her name out of your fucking mouth, Pinkett Smith. And blink and you'll miss Samuel L. Jackson as a drug dealer and a piece of shit father. I think he has less time here than he does in Deep Blue Sea. Speaking of upbringing and how you're raised, that's exactly what this film's about. Trying to get out of the shadows of your parents and build something for yourself, a better future. Kane lost his folks and was raised by his grandparents, two loving people who tried to do their best to raise him right. O-Dog, however, did not have that luxury, and so he turns to a life of crime, and he foolishly keeps a surveillance tape and brags about it at parties where he's icing the two workers there, killing them in cold blood. This would, of course, come back to bite him in the ass later. This is unfortunately not a feel-good story because Kane had everything going for him. He's going to college. He's going to leave this life behind. But because of that tape, because of that stupid choice he made, he gets pulled back into this world and he goes all in, dealing drugs, making bad choices, and finding himself on the wrong side of a gun as he shields his friend's young kid in a drive-by shooting. There's a lot going on in this movie. It's a tough watch. Pretty sure I heard the N-word more times in this than Django Unchained, although I believe that holds the record. Yeah, it was a hard-hitting story. It ultimately took me back to when I was their age, and I was in a shootout, and my super soaker jammed in the front yard, and my neighbor was able to get the best of me as well. As I lay there in a heap on the ground, soaked head to toe in water, I thought, why? Why is this my life? Yeah, so kind of Kind of the same thing as this. Number 21. Believe it or not, there was a time when Netflix was actually trying to make good movies, exclusive films on their streaming service. The Irishman sitting at the top of their Criterion collection. This is a Martin Scorsese directed film. It's 3.5 hours long, so you know it's serious and good. It's got all the classic mobster actors in it. We got Robert De Niro, we have Al Pacino, Harvey Keitel, Joe Pesci, Ray Romano is in this too. Hell, even Anna Paquin is here and gets a couple lines of dialogue. Robert De Niro gets to once again recount his fictitious life like he did in Once Upon a Time in America, except for this time, it doesn't suck ass. He is playing Frank Sheeran, who's a real person in the world. He's dead now, but this was like his final living testimony, recounting his time working for the mob, and eventually dealing with Jimmy Hoffa. Now, even though this movie's not old, it came out in 2019, most of the actors are, but they have not missed a step in terms of their performances, which are all very understated. Even Pesci and Pacino, who are typically scene stealers in their films, are very downplayed here. When this movie came out, de-aging was all the rage, and they used a lot of it, especially on Robert De Niro's character, and I never had a problem with it. I always thought it looked pretty damn good. Those blue eyes, those baby blues get a bit much at times. It's very aggressive. However, and this is a big however, some of the scenes when he is a little younger and he's roughing guys up don't translate that well. You have an old ass Robert De Niro hunched over playing a much younger guy, and he's kicking a dude and breaking his hand, and it just does not translate well at all. He's barely moving on this guy. But going through this movie and seeing these old mobsters one more time really was a treat. It's a sight to behold. It does run well, but it's also broken into sections. It is based on a novel, I Heard You Paint Houses, and because of this, you could treat it like a miniseries and just watch an hour or so a night. I would imagine they followed the material very closely, and what we have is a damn fine film. And we are a far cry from what Netflix would inevitably become, which are things like the Kissing Booth trilogy and Rebel Moon. How far they have fallen. All right, let's continue. Number 20. New Jack City is another one on this list that I watched for the first time, and I was pleasantly surprised with the results. This is an R-rated, hour-and-a-half vehicle with Wesley Snipes in the driver's seat, and he's got his pedal to the fucking metal. Now, while I prefer Snipes as Simon Phoenix in Demolition Man, Nino Brown is no slouch. He's made a name for himself on the streets. He's selling a very dangerous drug. One that our poor Pookie just can't shake. Pookie, played by Chris Rock, eventually will go undercover and try to bust up this thing with the cops. He's gonna screw the pooch and again get high off of this shit. Not only do you have Chris Rock and Wesley Snipes, you have Ice-T playing the hard-nosed detective. He's on the beat, trying to get into this underworld. You got Bill Nunn, Michelle, Vanessa Williams, Bill Cobbs, Judd Nelson, and another one of those classic unfortunate tales where a woman comes between the friendship of two men. This was a solid watch. I really enjoyed Ice-T in this. It's a great ensemble cast. And of course, Snipes. He's always bringing his A game. Number 19. Now, this is another one of those films that I hear nothing but over-the-top praise for, and that's True Romance. A movie that I enjoy, but holy crap, when I bring this movie up ever, it's always just unending praise for the film. And granted, you want to talk about a cast. You have Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, Dennis Hopper, Gary Oldman, Brad Pitt, Val Kilmer, kind of. I mean, he's Elvis. You don't actually ever really see Val Kilmer outside of some shots blurred in the mirror. But I'm just getting started. Christopher Walken, Michael Rappaport, James Gandolfini, and of course, Samuel L. Jackson. He's always there somewhere. Man, you might have to move a shrub to find him, but rest assured, he's under that shrub. Just with those names alone, it would be hard to even point out who would be the main protagonists out of that list, but it's Christian Slater and Patricia Arquette. Mainly Patricia Arquette, really. She's one of the few that's gonna make it out of this movie alive. I have this ranking somewhere in the middle of my list, and I know that's gonna upset some people because they'll probably have it in the top 10, top 5, maybe even top 3. I just don't enjoy it as much as others, but I do absolutely have a good time with this film. I guess for me, Patricia Arquette is just too much. All right, I'm not buying what she's selling. She's like this Harley Quinn-esque type character that's always bubbly and chipper, but has that wild side to her. Christian Slater's always awesome, so I'm not going to discredit anything he brings to the table. And I did really appreciate Gary Oldman in this movie. But this movie does take a good amount of time to get going, and there are several parts of the film where I'm just like, all right, I don't need to see more of Slater and Arquette just kind of pining over each other. And Brad Pitt being a one-dimensional stoner is never really that funny. Or it's not as funny as it probably should be. All that said, there is plenty to love in this film. Christian Slater's character Clarence has a silent passenger with him. He sees the king in the room. He has conversations. This movie's directed by Tony Scott, who brings a cool factor to every scene of this film. We have unique settings taking us from Detroit to Hollywood. There's drugs, there's sex, there's rock and roll. It's got it all. And I think the fact that one of the two writers on this is Quentin Tarantino elevates the popularity even more. Number 18. American Gangster, the first time we're seeing Denzel Washington on this list, and it's not going to be the last. Directed by Ridley Scott. He's very hit and miss, but when he hits, my God, does he hit good. This 2.5-hour R-rated epic saga is going to show us two sides of the tracks. We have our mob boss, played by Denzel Washington. We have our cop, played by Russell Crowe. We're going to jump back and forth between these two lifestyles as we see the power, the wealth, the prestige that Denzel's character Frank Lucas acquires, and then we will juxtapose that with the poor, miserable tuna sandwich lifestyle that Russell Crowe's character has to offer. We also have Josh Brolin in this. He gets a fun role playing a crooked detective. Cuba Gooding Jr. gets to play a celebrity, and we even have Carla Gugino show up a little bit, not as much as I would like to see her. But I always appreciate when a little Carla Gugino shows up in my life. This is a great movie because it shows how Frank is vicious and will do whatever it takes to rise to prominence and to build an empire for him and his family who will all live together in this big, beautiful plantation. And he does this cleverly by bringing in product from another country, thereby producing a better substance at a cheaper cost. It's smart. It's just smart thinking. This has some really great moments too. My favorite being when he's having just a nice little cappuccino in the middle of the afternoon and he has to go deal with some business. Walks outside, shoots a guy straight in the head, turn heels, goes back in and finishes his drink. That's truly how you know you've made it in the business. Number 17. If you were to have come up to me on the streets with tears in your eyes and said to me, "Sir, Adam, sir," as people address me often, if you were to make a 31 on 31 list, where would you put No Country for Old Men? And I would say, "Get out of my sight, peasant. I don't have time for you." But before you leave, let me give you this one little breadcrumb. It would be in my top 10. Boy, howdy, has that changed. I watched this movie when it came out 2 times in the same day with different people because I thought it was just so cool and different and subverted expectations. But watching it again, I found myself a little bit let down. Granted, I still think it's a really good movie. Tommy Lee Jones giving an understated performance here. You have a super creepy villain played by Javier Bardem. And we again see Josh Brolin delivering a performance. He's in way more of these movies than I thought he was. The guy's putting in the work. When a drug deal goes south, Josh Brolin's character finds a good chunk of cash, and he's gonna do his best to cover up the fact that he has it. And so the rest of the movie is this cold, heartless killer going around occasionally playing a game of chance with folks so he can use his contraption and boom, pop their brains out. Meanwhile, Tommy Lee Jones is just trying to figure out his place in a world he doesn't understand anymore. He's the sheriff in these parts who doesn't carry a gun, but he knows that things are going very wrong very quickly. The movie builds and builds and builds in fascinating ways as Josh Brolin decides after running and covering his tracks for so long that enough is enough. The hunter becomes the hunted. Tommy Lee Jones is always one step behind our killer, trying to figure out what his next move is, and you hope, you just want him to stop the guy. You want Tommy to get up on that horse and ride into the sunset. Meanwhile, Woody Harrelson randomly shows up. He's also working for the employer. He wants the money back. So you have these different individuals all going after the same thing. But that's where we take those expectations and we subvert them. Instead of Tommy Lee Jones doing a heroic thing, he retires. Instead of Josh Brolin getting revenge, he gets killed unceremoniously off camera. Instead of Woody's character retrieving the money, a character, mind you, we've only seen a little bit of, and he appears to be really good at what he does, he's killed almost instantly. The Coen brothers wanted to tell a gritty story with a sense of depressing realism, I suppose. And there's a deeper, self-reflective meaning behind this story. What is our life even worth when good people constantly get cut down by the bad ones? Do we even have control over our lives, or is destiny taking the wheel? Or is chance at play? There are some heavy concepts there to work with, but I can completely understand why people watching just might want to see the bad guy lose. And see that old timer go out in a blaze of glory, or settle down at the end on a ranch, comforted by his heroic deeds. Instead, we see an old man, sad, kind of confused about the way of things. And now that I'm talking about this movie, I am starting to appreciate it even more. I'm good where it's at on the list. Let's keep going. Number 16, The Town. All right, now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. We have a good old-fashioned heist film going on here. Think Heat, but a little bit more modern. We have a bunch of professionals dressed up as nuns knocking off banks. Leading the charge is Ben Affleck as Doug McRae, and his right-hand man, Jeremy Renner, his good buddy. Hawkeye's in this thing, and he doesn't miss, all right, even in this film. We start out guns blazing as these two, along with some other people in their crew, knock off a bank, they steal a bunch of money, and they even take a hostage to secure the getaway. They let this poor woman go. They have her walk the beach till she gets to the ocean, only hearing their voice, never seeing their faces. Which is going to be convenient later when Ben Affleck actually falls in love with her. Her name is Claire, and she's played by Rebecca Hall. I know we all know Rebecca Hall. She's everybody's favorite character from all the recent Godzilla v. Kong movies, Godzilla x Kong. We have Rebecca Hall in this one. No? No? Okay, that's fine. I have another star for you that everybody loves even more, and that's Blake Lively. Also in the film, everybody's super pumped about Blake Lively these days. She can do no wrong. I hope the sarcasm's coming through. Yeah, Blake in this movie plays a whore. And she has a past relationship with Ben Affleck's character, Doug. There's also some mafia stuff in here, but it's very small scale. It's just like one dude and a henchman. His name is Fergus, and he really enjoys smelling the roses. The main good guy of the film is an FBI agent played by John Hamm. He's going to be tracking these assholes down, trying to figure out their next play. But you know that Ben Affleck, he's a wily one, and he always manages to give him the slip, even when the film winds down. The Town is a fun movie. It's got multiple heists. It's got some good car chases. I really dig this one. Number 15. I'm not gonna lie, this is my first time doing one of these big 31 on 31 lists, and I feel like I'm spending an awful lot of time on each movie, and it's probably gonna be an absolute nightmare to edit. I'll try to go a little quicker through the next 15 or so left. My gosh, this is gonna be a nightmare to edit. All right, I'm talking Sicario. I already covered the second movie. We got the first one higher on the list. I mentioned Emily Blunt. She is the fish out of water character. She gets to work for a special task force that stops the cartel dead in their tracks, and they get to operate kind of outside the law with the president's approval. Josh Brolin leads this thing. We find out as the movie starts to unwind that America and the cartel are working hand in hand. They maintain some sort of a balance, not trying to straight up stop the cartel, but just keep them in check, operating underneath the surface in a less messy way. Meanwhile, Benicio del Toro's going on his side quest where he's gonna kill the people responsible for killing his wife and daughter. And that ending's brutal when he confronts the family. They're having a nice meal outside, and he takes out every single one of them. I watched this with my wife, who I'm kind of concerned about now, because as we've watched some of these movies, she's kind of a cold-blooded killer. She was all in when he killed the kids. She's like, yep, you gotta kill the kids or they're gonna grow up and get revenge. And I just do the slow turn at her like, what the fuck? We have kids. What is wrong with you? Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. This movie's cool. It's got a Christopher Nolan sort of feel. I love the way it's shot. It's got a clean rawness to it. A clean rawness. And there's some unique camera work going on. I like when they strap the camera to a side of a vehicle and you're kind of rolling along with it. That's the shit I eat up. You don't see that as much anymore. Where's the creativity? We have more technology now than ever. Why aren't we strapping cameras to birds flying around? And I mean, come on, the sky's the limit. Number 14. All right, we have Boyz n the Hood, another first-time watch for me. Out of all the movies on the list, this one surprised and blew me away the most. Really a tragic tale here, a drama film about a young man growing up in Crenshaw in the ghetto. And the young man in LA I'm talking about is Cuba Gooding Jr. He starts out living with his mom, but he's gonna end up with his father pretty early as she wants him to be raised by a man and be taught the ways of a man, which entails responsibility, respect, higher learning, paying your damn bills, and staying away from gang violence. Pretty self-explanatory things, but yeah, sometimes you gotta kick your kid's ass to make him realize it, and that's where Lawrence Fishburne's gonna come in. That's his father in the film. His mom's Angela Bassett. I mean, my God, his mom is the queen of Wakanda. His dad is freaking Morpheus. If this kid can't grow up right, what hope do any of us have? The good news is, for the most part, he does. The bad news is, no one else around him is in the same boat. Almost all of his friends are never gonna leave the ghetto, and in fact, most will probably be buried there, including a couple in this movie. This was a depressing, hard-hitting look at what life was like growing up in LA in these areas in the 80s and 90s. And again, as a self-identifying black woman, I really related to this. Remember my Super Soaker story earlier? Still relevant, still relevant. No, but in all seriousness, this was a really hard movie to watch, and I even had a manly tear trickle down the side of the cheek. This one, out of all the movies on the list, hit me hard, made me feel emotions. And if you haven't seen Boyz n the Hood, I would recommend giving it a shot. If not for Cuba, watch it for Ice Cube, who plays Doughboy in this movie. Because Doughboy loses his damn brother in this movie, the least we can do is show him some support. Number 13. Okay. Scarface is next on my list, and I love to do my terrible Pacino impression. It makes people laugh at me because it's so bad. Say hello to my little friend. I also do, you wanna get nuts? Let's get nuts, which isn't even from Scarface or Pacino. That's Michael Keaton in Batman, but I added in for some reason. Okay. All right, that's Scarface. Let's move on. No, Scarface is a classic. Pacino is so damn good in this. So many great one-liners. Just the way he talks, the way he acts, the swagger, the rise to power, and then the complete meltdown as he becomes ultra wealthy and ultra paranoid. The dude, cocaine's a hell of a drug. And this guy's taking it by the handfuls by the time this movie's winding down. His sick obsession with his sister that she even calls him on later. I mean, the guy's got problems, for sure. Out of all the movies on this list, Tony Montana is probably the most iconic, right? Maybe only second to Marlon Brando's Godfather. This movie came out in 1983 and it holds up really well. It moves fast considering it's almost 3 hours long. And it's got a solid supporting cast. Michelle Pfeiffer's no slouch. It's just Pacino really dominates everything about this. And for good reason. Okay! Number 12. Got the Pacino in me going back to back. We're going back to back. I got another Pacino movie for you. It's called Donnie Brasco. This is another film I had never seen Richard prior to this 31 on 31. I honestly thought it was going to be terrible just because the name sounded lame. That's truly it. Donnie Brasco, that sounds lame. And the poster was kind of boring. It's just a couple guys with jackets looking down. I had no idea this movie was so damn good. And yes, I have a movie channel. Subscribe for lack of knowledge. Donnie Brasco was fucking great. The titular character here is played by Johnny Depp. He infiltrates the mob by becoming the right-hand man to Lefty. It's a hand joke. Played by Al Pacino. Pacino plays Lefty is not like the cool, suave dude we may know him from in the past. Instead, he's just a very loyal, kind in a lot of ways, sort of guy you wouldn't mind palling around with and letting him cook you dinner 3 or 4 times a week, which is exactly what our Donnie does. What's fun about this movie is Pacino's character is not the top dog here. He's trying to get in the good graces and maybe rise up in the ranks, but he's been unappreciated for a very long time, just kind of stuck where he's at in the club. And we see this whenever he's around the Sonnies. I say Sonnies plural because there are 2 different ones. Michael Madsen being the more prominent one who's going to be the Don figure later in the film. Our Donnie Brasco is in a very tough situation though. Not only has he been undercover for several years by the time this winds down, he also has to hide away the fact that he has a wife and kids at home. Making life more miserable is the fact that he's constantly put in harm's way, ready to snap or buckle under the pressure at different moments, and on top of all that, he has to go home to his wife who's Anne Hesh? Just all around an unwinnable situation. Keep in mind, every day I'm watching a mafia movie, so I'm starting to talk like these guys, I'm starting to treat my family like them, I'm a little harder around the house. People asking me to do stuff, I'm like, forget about it. You do it. You mow the lawn. Forget about it. Not a big deal. Not really. I'm a complete pushover in my house. My family thinks I'm a joke and I'm not respected in the slightest. But anyway, talking about this film, I love the scene where they go over the forget about it. And that's actually my favorite scene in the movie, where a young Paul Giamatti is asking Johnny Depp what forget about it even means. And he breaks out the like 5 or 6 different meanings. You know, part of me thinks Donnie Brasco could even be higher on this list, but forget about it. It's good where it's at. Number 11. All right, I mentioned we'd be seeing Denzel again on this list, and here we are at Training Day. Probably the shittiest training day anyone's ever had. I honestly forgot that this movie was written by David Ayer until the credits rolled, and I was like, what? He did this? I forgot that he used to make good movies. It's crazy. What the hell happened to him? Anyway, Training Day came out in 2001. Denzel, I believe, won Best Actor for this film, even though he probably should have won it years and years earlier. This was a nice courtesy, and it's a good performance. He is a hardened detective who's about as crooked as they come. Ethan Hawke plays Jake, the brand new rookie detective, his first day at his new job, and hot damn is it a bad one. Someone's got a bad case of the Mondays, is what I said after watching Jake ingest some PCP, and then watch his mentor Alonzo kill a man in cold blood, and having the rest of the unit agree to say that Jake was the one that shot the guy. This movie is a roller coaster, and Alonzo is the master at turning on the charm, making you think he's on your side, he's your friend, he's your buddy, you know, just stick with him and he'll make sure things move right. But the man behind the curtain eventually comes out and he reveals to Jake that he's been planning this out for a good solid week, and he's made sure that things line up so that our straight as an arrow cop, Jake, winds up dead in the bathtub by some of Alonzo's boys. But that's not how things play out, because sometimes doing a good deed can actually come back and hit you later. And that's exactly what happens for Jake as he saves the girl in the streets. That message is received by her brother, who's holding a shotgun to him. He lets the guy live so he can have one final confrontation with Alonzo in the streets. This movie's freaking awesome. Everything's great in it. You got fucking Snoop Dogg in a wheelchair at one point. You have a shirtless, silent Terry Crews just standing in the background looking like a badass. And you have Denzel doing this out-of-character performance and selling the shit out of it. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the tasteful nudity by one Eva Mendes. Again, I'm a simple man. Simple man. Number 10. We have a classic for you here, The Untouchables. Kevin Costner, Sean Connery. You know Robert De Niro's in this, of course. And De Niro is once again playing a real figure, Al Capone. This is another movie set before Prohibition. We have Costner here trying to make a name for himself, trying to clean up the precinct. And the best way to do it is by getting rid of the corrupt cops and going after the untouchable Al Capone himself. The first bust does not go well. Costner ends up looking like a complete dipshit. But after enlisting a small band of brothers, these guys are going to start taking matters into their own hands and doing things a bit off the book. And that's all thanks to Sean Connery's no-nonsense approach. He was a beat cop, but now he's really getting his hands dirty. Andy Garcia is also a part of the crew. The most prominent moment with him is during that stair sequence at the end of the film. Costner and him running down the stairs in slow motion as a group of men with guns start opening fire. all I can think about when this scene plays out is the Naked Gun. I think it's in the 33 and a third. I don't think it's the first one. Regardless, it's a hilarious scene in a hilarious movie. Brian De Palma directs this, and I just want to point out, even though it's rated R and there is some good violence and there's some great cinematography, this also felt a little Disney in a way. The music is kind of uplifting and hopeful outside of that incredibly brutal moment where Sean Connery dies in his apartment. The rest of it kind of plays out in a merry way. They stop the bad guy. Costner wins the day. More often than not, these mob movies end in kind of a bittersweet or downright depressing note. Not this time, baby. We gotta win. Number 9. Ladies and the Gentleman. That's the movie I'm talking about right now. Guy Ritchie's back on the table. We have another film by him. This is another brand new watch for me, and I dug the living hell out of it. And I want to tell you a fun little Adam fact. We like those fun Adam facts here. I did not know this was directed by Guy Ritchie. I started watching the film, and all I kept thinking is, man, I love the style. I love the vibe of this. It's giving Guy Ritchie. And then not much after I said that, directed by Guy Ritchie came up. This film is going to be presented as a story told by Hugh Grant in a very tough, harsh sounding accent that I'm not used to him having. And he's pulling it off. Hugh Grant's fantastic. Everybody in this movie's really damn good. Even Charlie Hunnam, who I almost never think is good in movies. The film focuses on drug boss Michael Pearson, who has set himself up quite an impressive operation of these hidden laboratories that he has put up for sale to the highest bidder. As with all my favorite Guy Ritchie movies, there's a lot of different characters and groups of folks that are going to be coming and going throughout this. Everything's going to mix together like a great episode of Seinfeld. Colin Farrell's character is my favorite. He's simply known as Coach. He's got a whole band of guys who really respect him. They train under him, and they even break into meth labs once in a while and perform music videos. McConaughey's Michael's looking to get out of the business. He wants to sell off his property, and he wants to settle down with his lady, played by Michelle Dockery, who is very sharp and witty with everything that she says. The dialogue in this movie is superb. Guy Ritchie is on his A game with this one. It's got some creative and fun scenarios, some good chase scenes, and all around just a narrative that really comes together perfectly at the end. Could not believe how great this was, and it only came out a few years back in 2019. Number 8. All right, we're getting to serious contenders now. When you think mafia, when you think mob, crime, family stuff, Goodfellas is often one of the first movies that comes to mind. You have all the big players here. Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta, Ray Romano. Oh, not that last one. Okay, yeah, we did that already. This is Martin Scorsese at his best, doing another biopic, covering Henry Hill's rise and fall. And this timeline's from the mid-50s to the early 80s. Much like a Bronx Tale, we're gonna start this story with Henry Hill when he's young and impressionable, really looks up to one of the mafia bosses. Ray Liotta plays this character. He's a very loyal individual. He doesn't want to step on toes, and he's very smart with the decisions he makes, when to jump in on fights and when to stay back. This is what kept him alive so long, while many of his others died off in gunfights, in miscommunications, or just straight up being dumbasses. Joe Pesci is at his pesciest here, a freaking loose cannon wild card. This character and his character in Casino, pretty much the same for me, and this is my favorite kind of Joe Pesci movie. And again, Robert De Niro is always solid. I find that he's kind of the same in a lot of these, but it works, forget about it. Unlike most of the movies on this list, Goodfellas is at its best when they're just having conversations. There's a dark humor infused in most of the dialogue, and it comes off so good. Hey, why don't you go fuck yourself? Just simple things like that, delivered with the gusto of a Pesci, is the reason why this movie is looked at so fondly by so many. Number 7. LA Confidential is just a damn fun movie, as simple as that. But it's also a movie with heart, and that's thanks to everyman Russell Crowe, who plays Bud White. He's a good detective with a very short fuse, especially when it comes to people smacking around women. And he's just one of a few detectives we're gonna follow. The other being Ed Exley, played by Guy Pearce. He is 1000% by the book to an annoying degree. And who could forget Jack, played by Kevin Spacey? He's the Hollywood detective. He's the famous one that everybody admires. These three guys find themselves entangled in a mystery that runs very deep, and they're gonna have to work together to uncover a string of murders that's gonna take them to the big fish. Danny DeVito's here to help guide us through this film. Everything's on the down low though, very hush-hush, but he's gonna give us the inside scoop. And if these great actors weren't enough, how can we possibly forget the Academy Award-winning performance by Kim Basinger? Won an Academy Award for this performance, where she just looks kind of pretty and shows very little emotion almost the entire film. It's perplexing, but it happened. I guess Hollywood has a thing for hookers. Just ask Honora. I love me a good old-fashioned whodunit, and this is the perfect kind, taking place in the 50s, in the heart of Los Angeles, California. There's twists, there's turns, there's red herrings, and ultimately, you get a very satisfying conclusion. And much like the men that leave Kim Basinger's house, I always like to leave satisfied. Number 6. We have come to the end of the Guy Ritchie films with Snatch, his best movie to date, in my opinion. This is such a freaking Guy Ritchie movie from top to bottom. From the crazy music video style editing he does with smash cuts, slam cuts, fly out cuts. I'm just saying random words, but you get my point. This movie has a zany plot revolving around a giant ass diamond that a lot of people are trying to get their hands on. But it's the characters themselves that bring this world to life. Not only is Bricktop one of the most brutal, hilarious, brilliant villains with his random ass bizarre monologues typically revolving around pigs, to Turkish trying to make deals with a pikey when he can't understand a single word that comes out of Brad Pitt's mouth. This is another one of those films where the dialogue is sharp as hell, it's snappy, it's jumping around constantly. You have to pay attention because there's so many little side quests going on that all lead to the same conclusion, which is a lot of people dying, much like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels in that final act. And not only does Snatch look really good, it sounds even better. The soundtrack in Snatch is freaking stellar, and unfortunately that's something I've omitted when talking about some of the older movies on this list. I apologize. There's great soundtracks in a lot of these, but Snatch, that one really pops off for me. Number 5. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally made it to the top 5 on my list. The perfect list, of course, unshakable. And it's going to be The Godfather Part II. The most challenging part of this list for me has been deciding if I put Godfather Part 1 over 2 or vice versa. Ultimately, this is where I have landed, and I guess I'm okay with it. But really, I could switch them and I would lose no sleep. Everything I said about Francis Ford Coppola's Godfather Part III can be removed for Godfather Part 1 and 2. I'm kind of going to talk about them in tandem because they really do feel like one cohesive movie at the end of the day. The second one is focusing on Michael Corleone, his rise to power after his father dies in a peaceful, nice way at the end of the first film, playing with one of his grandkids in the field. It's a death that Michael will never get to experience because this guy's an asshole and he has no real friends in his life. He's got a little bit of that Breaking Bad syndrome in him where he's pretending like everything he does for his family, but ultimately everything he does for himself. This movie's brutal to watch play out because I was Team Michael for the first movie. I really liked the character. I liked that he went back for his family and avenged his father's, almost death. But holy shit, this guy's a cold, calculated pile of crap. He kills his own damn brother, and he doesn't even have the cojones to do it himself. Instead, one of his henchmen take him out fishing and put a bullet in his head. Pacino, terrific as always. As Michael, he gives an understated performance. He's not loud and larger than life. I mean, he can rise up there sometimes, but it's very rare. This is a cool, calm, collected chess master. And what's really great about Godfather Part II is we're not just watching him. We are jumping through history, and we get to see Robert De Niro playing Vito Corleone, the father, growing up in America and rising to power. which means befriending some seedy individuals and eventually assassinating the current Don. The juxtaposition between these two characters is what makes this movie so brilliant, as we watch these two men and how they handle the family business in very different lights. Don was a respected and caring individual to the community. Yes, he was ruthless when he needed to be, but he didn't want to be. Whereas Michael will never let go of a grudge, and he will not leave any loose ends. The Godfather Part II scored brilliantly, looks fantastic, and it was a perfect follow-up to the previous entry, which we're going to talk about now. Number 4. Before Vito was breaking Michael's heart, he was putzing around with his casinos while his father ran things in New York. Sitting down, stroking a cat behind a desk, making people offers they can't refuse. Occasionally, having a horse head get thrown into a bed to send a message. When most people think mobster, they think Don Corleone. They think about that iconic performance by Marlon Brando. And then they start thinking about The Godfather all over again. You think about his kids, the loose cannon Sonny, who will meet his demise later in the film getting mowed down by Tommy guns. You think of Al Pacino's Michael, the smartest one in the bunch, who's getting out. He doesn't need to be part of this life, but will be pulled in because his father was gunned down just getting a piece of fruit. You think of our girl Adrian, Talia Shire as Connie, the only daughter of Vito who's getting slapped around by her shitty husband. And then there's the glue of the family, Robert Duvall, not related by blood, but treated as a son all the same. These people, these characters all make such a rich family dynamic in a rich story, in a rich world. My God, I still remember that Godfather video game that was kind of like Grand Theft Auto, but just driving around in those vehicles in that time period has such an amazing feel and vibe to it. There's truly no other movies out there like The Godfathers 1 and 2. Not that terrible third one, but these first two movies. Number 3. Okay, Pacino's back with heat. And for once, he's not the bad guy. Naturally, Robert De Niro's in this. He's always in these. And you got Val Kilmer. We have another heist movie here, done to perfection. The town looked at this film and said, hey, we're going to try our hand. We might get close, but we're not going to beat the masters. You talk about iconic characters. Heat is an iconic film. So many video games, so many other movies or shows have emulated what this film was able to accomplish. It's gritty, it's raw, it's unmatched. This is another movie that's just shy of 3 hours and it coasts by like it's nothing. And it's mainly because even when there's not action, there is some really sharp dialogue and some wonderful exchanges between our leads. The diner scene alone is a reason for people to watch this film, where Robert De Niro and Al Pacino are sitting across from each other, having those set of exchanges, trying to up each other, trying to out-dick each other. And again, you got Val Kilmer in this, playing it smooth as silk. This guy is cool as fuck. But then there's Tom Sizemore in this, John Voight, a very young Natalie Portman, and Ashley Judd. I've never been like an Ashley Judd fan. I don't hate her. She's just always been kind of there. Ashley Judd, the reason everybody's watching this movie. No, but when you think of cool, slick, action heist films, Heat is always the one that rises to the top. Number 2. All right, we're at the number 2 spot, and I am running on fumes. I shit you not. I'm filming this, and I think I'm looking over. Yeah, it's 3 a.m, so I apologize if I press on a little faster through the last couple. But what do you say at this point? I've covered 29 of these, and now we're at Casino, another film that features Pacino, De Niro. We got Sharon Stone, high as a kite in this movie. James Woods, her douchey boyfriend in the wings, who gets away with it at the end. That pissed me off, but I understand I'm moving like a million miles an hour. Casino is legendary status for me. Joe Pesci is a pit bull in this movie. He's vicious, and I love that there's this dual narration going on between De Niro and Pesci's characters. De Niro's character Ace is trying to run this clean casino, even though it's incredibly dirty. There's money getting laundered out of it constantly. They're skimming like crazy out the back. Meanwhile, you got Pesci's character Nicky coming into town like a bull in a china shop and just dismantling everything. He starts running his own games. He gets kicked out of the casinos. De Niro's at home with his wife, who's a complete shit show. She hates his guts, only using him to build up a nest egg for her loser boyfriend. There's just so much going on at every turn. And while they are making a large amount of money for a good amount of time, Ace is the only one that's really gonna cheat death several times, almost blowing up in a vehicle, almost having his brains blown out by his best buddy Nicky, but he always finds his in, he always finds his window of opportunity. Meanwhile, Nicky's gonna go out of this world punching and kicking and screaming. I love everything at the casino, from the guys trying to cheat the system, to taking people out back and beating the hell out of them, warning them that their friends better not show up here, to even Ace hosting his own show, trying to make a name for himself in show business. It's just a different world from my boring life, and it's fun to live it through these crazy individuals. Number 1. All right, this brings me to the number 1 on my list. Everything has culminated to this perfect film called The Departed. Another Martin Scorsese vehicle, came out in 2006. This time the big bad, though, is played by Jack Nicholson. First time on this list, believe it or not. His character's name is Costello. He's ruthless, and he owns most of Boston at this point. He has politicians on his side. He has crooked cops in his pocket. And he has an inside man who's the most squeaky clean, honest, down-to-earth, pure of heart individual you could possibly have, and he groomed him from a very young age. That's Matt Damon's character, Colin. A brilliant role to give Damon, because up until this point, he kind of was always a squeaky clean guy in movies. He was always the goody two-shoes. So having him play a character pretending to be a good dude, it's just smart. It's just smart. As great as Jack Nicholson is in this, and he is great, Leonardo DiCaprio is putting in the fucking work. He is an undercover agent who has nothing to lose. He rose through the academy, has a shitheel of a father, and he's trying to make a name for himself on his own. But he's being used by everyone. Not only do the cops disrespect him and treat him like a lapdog, but he's also a grunt for Costello. Costello doesn't trust this kid. Why should he? He trusts no one. There is a who's who of actors in this film. Not only do we have the people I listed, but we have Mark Wahlberg playing another douchey detective. We have Martin Sheen as the lovable senior detective. Alec Baldwin's a strung out cop who always looks like he's 1 foot in the grave. Anthony Anderson's in this playing a straight man cop for once, not cracking jokes every 5 minutes. I think he's funny as hell, but I'm fine seeing him in like a normal character performance. And then there's the love interest, Vera Farmiga, that lady that's always stopping those ghosts. She's the love interest to not just Matt Damon, but Leonardo DiCaprio as well. She's playing both sides of the tracks, not realizing that they're crisscross applesauce. Now, remember before when I said a lot of these movies don't have happy endings? This is one of them. This is a very bittersweet ending because we feel so bad for DiCaprio the whole time. He's struggling with his identity. He wants to get out. This is killing him, having to be this different person, having to constantly sneak around, meet up with the cops, form plans. For me, all of Scorsese's roads have led to this film. The acting is great. The dialogue is sharp. You have that dark humor infused throughout the film, but there's a solid amount of drama. It really is the perfect mob movie for me. And there you have it. We got through it. And if I look completely strung out and the lighting's different, it's because this is a completely different day now. If you subscribe to my channel, which I encourage you to do, Adam Does Movies, make sure to check out my next live stream because I'm gonna have a very lovely story for you about how all of this happened. But that's a tale for another time. Thank you for watching. I encourage you to put your list down below, even though, as I've stated several times, this one's perfect. This is the perfect list. You can't beat it. And you're also gonna wanna check out the rest of the collaborators' videos. I will put links in the description when they become available. Also, I believe Cody Leach's channel has all of these videos in a playlist so you can easily go through and access them. And you're definitely gonna wanna stick around so you find out when we have that live stream where we're all gonna clash head to head with our thoughts, where we're gonna get together and have a fun, spirited debate about why my list is better than theirs. Okay, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I see you next time. Take care. Okay! Thanks again for watching the video. If you wouldn't mind, I would appreciate it if you checked out patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. That's where fans of my channel go to help support it. There are different tiers with different offerings, exclusives every month. We got multiple movie reviews, there's a vlog monthly, and even if you don't want to plop down $1 a month, you can just sign up for Patreon for free and become a member at no charge. Appreciate your time. Thanks.